Hello, this is a presentation on my fish husbandry setup. This was recorded in two parts, so I do repeat myself. I welcome any questions, and this is currently for sale. These are my tanks. Let's do a sort of a panning shot of them all. That's the 6x2x2. On the top you see the 4x2x2, 2x2x2, and the two I got off the side of the road. Another angle of it, that's the decks and pallet racking set up for all the tanks that are currently on it. Here's a view from underneath, so you can see that there's quite a bit of room for 3-foot wide tanks there. And above there's the 4x2 pieces of wood with ply on top of it holding up. I didn't mention earlier, but there's lights underneath as well. They're the drains at the back. They're the gang valve at the top with each of the individual valves. It's been modified a couple of times. That's why it's different colours. It's been cut. It can be cut again. You won't have any problems with it. There's the drain, the water trickling down through the filter. That can take all the power of the pump through it at once. You don't have to worry about overflows. Just in case the top does overflow, there's a second drain running down it. So if your very top bit of filter medium falls up, you got a bit of time to work out what's happening before you get water everywhere. It's a very autonomous setup. Power can go off. You won't get any flooding. The pump can fail, and there's a heater in each tank, so it keeps working. It's only one pump to rely on. It's a very high quality Italian-made one. You can see the trickle filter draining through the hose tails into the sump here. There used to be other mechanical filtration down there, but it's been moved out, so that's why it looks like that. You can put a bit of cloth up against where the water's overflowing, and it won't hear anything at all. The pump's hiding in there under a rock and some cloth because I was running a bit low on water at one stage, and I kind of cheated to keep it running a bit longer without sucking too much air in. The pump can run dry, so it's not a problem, it's just loud. As for the plumbing, everything's valved and looks very pretty. They'd have to be put back together, and it's modular, so some of these valves have never been used, and I think all of them you can still weld stuff back onto it. If I was to keep this, I'd eventually put 3-foot deep tanks all the way along here. Another thing about pallet racking, I've cut the supports to the bottom so that the bottom level can be as low to the ground as possible, otherwise it would have interfered with the bolt. Made out of decks and pallet racking. The levels are adjustable, so you can move it up and down to whatever height you want. It's not going to get top heavy because of just how solid the stand is. Nearly 3 meters long, 830 mil wide, 6 foot tall. The 830 wide is the distance between the orange bars themselves, but because of how I've set it up with 4x2s across the beams, then plywood on top, because the plywood came in standard sizes with the 4x2s, you've just got everything at 900 mil, so it's 3-foot tanks nicely on the top and bottom. Overpowered bars, and I bought it. Each one's rated over 2 tonne. I think it was 2.4 off memory. I remembered that I could park a van on each beam and it wouldn't bend. For you to be able to bend it with a tank on either of the levels, you'd have to have it 150 centimetres tall to get enough water to make it move. So no worries about how many rocks you can put in. You can just keep loading them up. Second slide shows the filtration system. This was developed in stages, so it's modular. Now, originally I had the sump outside the stand, and mechanical filtration was built into the sump, but I found that once you turn the pump on, all the tanks filled up very quickly and there wasn't enough water to keep it circulating nicely. So I added a 150 litre pond, which I've covered up, so it's a sealed box underneath the pallet racking. It fits in there very snugly when it's on the bottom level, and that's just plumbed into the sump by 2 40mm hose tail fittings, which easily copes with the water. So you can have tanks on all levels, and once you turn the pump on, you won't get it gasping for more water. Trickle filter came in later, and that ended up making that's why the sump looks so odd. It's sort of just an open area of water. The trickle filter does all the mechanical filtration. It's about 600 wide, 600 tall, and 2500 deep. It's quite thin, and it stands behind the sump on one of the beams at the moment. It doesn't have to be there. You can move it anywhere because it's got 2 hose tail fittings at the bottom, so you can just run flexi PVC, but it's quite neat behind the sump. It does all mechanical filtration and oxidation of the water. On each level there's a bit of an egg crate, and wrapped around it is filter cloth for installing on outside drains when you bury them. So it's nice and cheap. The bottom of the trickle filter holds water, so you can add biological filter medium there, and it's going to get all the splashes and polishes the water up. Very nice. The drainage system itself, on the top rack there's a 50mm pressure pipe running down the back with lots of T-sections of 25mm inputs. So you can connect, I think I had it so you could do 10 different tanks from the top. The top can run all 16,000 litres by itself, so there's no worrying about backflow or it filling up and not being able to take it. Currently on the pallet racking, I've only illustrated the 2x2 tanks because they're the pretty ones, and the other ones are too hard to draw. But on the top there's a 4x2x2. It's divided into two parts in a ratio of 2:1. It was originally divided into 3 parts. That's why it's got 3 drains on it. I've still got the piece of glass if you want to divide it into 3 again, but I like it 2:1, but yeah, it'd be your choice. The 2x2x2 is 200 litres, and it's got a single side standpipe at the bottom. I'll explain later how the standpipes work. 6x2x2 on the bottom, 600 litres. It's got a single 40mm standpipe drain. In the video you won't actually see the top on it, but it's got two inlets, so it curves around and doesn't take in too much air, so you avoid the gurgling sound. That's what all the tanks do. What you can't really see in the video and at all is the 100 by 35 by 48 tank. It's behind the 6x2x2. As far as future-proofing this goes, because of the modular nature, you can just swap out tanks onto the drains and inlets from the gang valve at the top. It would fit a 9-foot tank if it was exactly 9 foot in length, but it easily fits any combination that make up to 8 feet a tank. And you can have it at 3 foot depth. So the next tank I would have bought would have been a 3x2x2 to place on the end, because you can get around and see the 3x2 window, and you'd have a 2x2 window on the other side. And yeah, very high volume. Next slide. This is where I explain the drains. Drains are based on the Durso standpipe design. By limiting the air intake, you can eliminate gurgling while allowing for automatic restarts and shutdowns. That means it doesn't create a vacuum, and it'll start draining again normally. So it's just like having a open drain on the top. There's no need to worry about it if the power goes out, and it won't suck too much water down into the sump for it to then flood again. There's pre-filters on each of the pipes. Most tanks, except for the ones where I've said they've got a standpipe from the bottom, have that T-section design. Well, the only one that doesn't is the 6x2x2. All the other ones have the T-section of the filter on it. Cost a bit to put together, but they're all there now. And I've got quite a few spares to add on some more tanks. So I've got a big pile of PVC pipes. Yeah, it's included with it. Water circulating through the tank. There's a 50mm pressure PVC gang valve composed of 50mm T sections with a 20mm T, and each T has a ball valve off it, and from that you can feed a 20mm pipe to each tank. The gang valve's fed by a 40mm Nightglass hose towel connected to clear poly pipe to the pump. The ends of the pipes all have little fittings on them, so it's above the water level, so you can take the tanks out, uncouple it, and you don't have to worry about cutting the pipe again. But the good thing about the couplings is it lets the outlet be underwater. There's a small hole drilled in the coupling to let air in, so it doesn't create a vacuum. So it avoids the water drop sound while letting air in, because the small hole acts as a entry and pushes air into the water. At the same time, it limits the amount of sound. Moving to the last slide, I've outlined some of the hardware. The pumps are single pump drives all the tanks. No need to worry about other pumps. It's very, very clean and efficient. It's an Italian-made Laguna Max Flow 16 500 litre per hour pump. Very quiet. It's got ceramic bearings, something special like that. Only 160 watts running. On the tank, there's heaps of 300 watt heaters. There's a couple of ones that aren't quite as many watts. I keep one in each tank just in case the pump fails. You don't actually need that many heaters, but you might as well have them because the heaters only run when it needs to heat up. It also means it heats up water pretty quickly. Also included is 2 UV filters. I haven't used either one of them. There's a 9 watt and a 12 watt UV filter. They just came with tanks when I bought them in the past. They both can be plumbed straight into the trickle filter outlets. Filter media, currently a combination of sea chem stones and bioboils for biological filtration. Then there's an underground drainage cloth I was talking about, used for mechanical filtration, the trickle filter. You can buy it for Bunnings. It swaps out all 3 levels about 10 times for $30, so it's just not worth cleaning the stuff. You just throw it out when you're done. It's very good at polishing the water, especially if the 3 drops. By the time it gets to the bottom, there's not much left. Other tank, again, that you can't really see, it's behind the 6x2x2. I was looking for filter media at one stage very early in the development, and I found stuff called K1 Gladness, something like that. It's some German engineered filter medium. It's got very, very high square feet of area. I figured it was cheap enough. It's self-cleaning because it floats mid-water and it knocks against each other and all the crap falls out of it. So it's better than Bioballs. So I set up a tank to do it so the inlet agitates them, and the 2 drains at the back have a grate in front of them so you don't get them all clogged up against it. It's very overkill. I'm currently not running it because I don't have enough fish to bother. It's never actually been fully established because I don't quite feed a cup of food to my fish. It's quite overkill.